Hey guys, welcome back to my channel again at Shruti Karen, and today we're here with another edition of my YouTube video. So today we'll be having a very amazing lesson on the idea of grade analysis. So we will be focusing on two different levels, which is specifically the level 4 and the level 5. For the level 3s, I will be sharing a link below this YouTube video to make sure that you have the exemplars. However, I will not be giving any analysis on level 3s, level 2s, and level 1s because I believe that they're basically very self-explanatory. I've created this lesson because I've realized that a lot of students are not able to differentiate between the difference of level 4 and level 5. Hence, I thought there is a big need for me to explain the differences between the two and to show you what a level 4 exemplar lacks and what a level 5 exemplar truly has to make sure that it goes to that specific grade. Now, again, before I begin my video, I'd like to emphasize to all of you to subscribe my YouTube channel and don't forget to click in the bell icon. Now this is because I'll be sharing lots of different videos over the course of this year, and I'm willing to make sure that you all have the specific information that you need for your paper, and this is only possible when you click on the subscribe button with the bell icon, so you will be able to get all the notification. Apart from that, here is my Instagram username, so if you could follow my Instagram, I think that'd be really great as well, because over there you can share your comments and also let me know if you want to gain any of my literature in English notes. At the same time, I have this email address which belongs to me myself, so you can feel free to email on this email address if you have any questions, or if you would like to gain my sample essays, or if you would like to gain a copy of my literature notes. All the purchase can be made through this email address. So without further ado, I'm going to go straight into the lesson, but again, I want to emphasize that today we will be going through the grade analysis. So let us begin. So in this lesson and this video, we will be going through the 2021 specifically, because that is a year that's very recent, and I'm sure that a lot of you must have taken the past papers already. Now, if you haven't, I think it'd be a great idea to keep a past paper with you side by side. In any case, due to the COVID restrictions and also the school suspension, if that's not possible, please do not worry, because I have the exemplars with me in this video, so you would be able to gain all the resources in any case. So this is basically the examination structure, and if you hop onto my previous videos, which I will currently share a link above this video, here you'd be able to gain the exam structure for paper 1, and 10 seconds after this you'd be able to see a link of the exam structure of paper 2. Now here is basically a much more concise explanation of what the papers are, and I'm just going to quickly and briefly go through this because this is not the focus of the video, and I want to spend majority of the time explaining the grade analysis to you all. So for paper 1, in part 1, as I've mentioned, it's basically you need to answer in long answers because you need to write 2 essays in the first part, so you have to make sure that you're covering all the genres in poetry. Now, all of the genres will be covered in part 1 and part 2. Let's say you have covered the film plus the short story in part 1. In part 2, you have to make sure that you're covering the play and the novel. So in this way, you are going to cover all the genres. Now, in any case, if you are confused, again, feel free to move on, to hop on to my previous videos. So for paper 2, this is the appreciation paper. In section A, it's basically a critical analysis of the novel and the play. In section B, it's generally referring to the poetry, which is the seen poetry. In part C, it's generally the unseen poetry, and more detailed explanation can be obtained in my previous video of paper 2. And since this is the 2021 year, and there was a lot of COVID restrictions during that year. Therefore, the SBA was unfortunately cancelled in this year. However, I'm a candidate of the recent years, and I myself have not completed an SBA. However, I will still be creating a video on the SBA as I have some previous experience on this. So, now, in this slide, I'm sure that you would be able to gain a very basic understanding of paper 1 and paper 2, which is why I want to quickly move on to the question type and make sure that you have a basic understanding of how to answer a paper 1 question. So, for example, let's see at this question, which was in 2021, and it belonged to the film section. So the question was, how is desire presented as a negative force in Vertigo? Now, obviously, in your essay, you'd be having like a lot of different sections. If you purchase my literature and English notes through my email address, stated in the first slide right here, you'd be able to see a much more detailed analysis of dissection of an essay. But since this is basically a very short lesson, I'm trying to highlight the key points rather than going in too much detail. So in the introduction, you need to make sure that you are having the definition of different keywords. So I want you all to pause this video for like 5 seconds and think, what are the keywords of this question? Now, since you all are ready to move on ahead, as you can see, as I have highlighted it myself, how, desire, and negative force is basically the 3 big keywords that you should keep into your mind. Then here comes the question, what are the keywords that you need to use to define it? So in this video, I'm going to show you how different question words does not have to be defined. It's basically the nouns usually, and sometimes the adjectives are the one that needs to be defined. For example, in this question, desire and negative force needs to be defined. Now, you have to make sure that your definition is in line with the essay that you write. For example, myself, I have written desire is generally a strong willingness of obtaining something or someone. It is the innate desire that usually comes because of the influence around the character. So this is my definition of desire, and this is how I'm going to get the points in my essays. Now, every candidate would have a different type of definition, and it's basically how you would take your essay into position. So, definition does not have to be something accurate. It is something basically that you believe so that the marker is able to understand what is your standpoint and also how have your points correlated with the definition in the essay. Now, the second part that we need to define is negative force. So negative force is generally, personally, I feel, is just a consequence. Now, you need to make sure that you're writing this in complete sentences. Again, since this is a lesson, I'm trying to provide everything in key format because I want to highlight the key points only. But when you're trying to write an essay, you need to make sure that you're writing it in sentences rather than in points. So now, if you watched the video very carefully, you'd be able to realize that how is a question word. Now, since it is a question word, you need to make sure that you are somehow keeping it in mind to understand that this is a question word, and you need to see what type of approach you need to take. Now, usually in paper 2, the common type of question words are what and why. So these are usually factual type of question words. Now, how needs more in-depth explanation, and this is something that I will explain over here. So how is generally the idea of using key terms of the set text. So Film itself, if you've realized, is a set text, and in 2021, Vertigo was the film, and that was the set text for the film. Now, how, because the question word is how, you need to make sure that you are including the film techniques, the camera movements, the color, the monologue, and also the camera angle, the camera movements. So these are all very important things that you need to include in your essay because they've included the word how. You would be able to gain all of the key terms for the camera movement, the camera angle in my literature notes. So don't forget to email me to indicate that you'd like a copy of it. Now, before choosing a question, because I have chosen this question, so of course in this video I will be specifically focusing on this question. However, the overall purpose of my video is to show you how you can structure your essay in a very specific format and to make sure that you are following the right direction and not astraying your path. However, keep in mind that this is only a sample and it is not the obvious way to answer a essay question. So, the first part of choosing a question is to make sure that you are familiar with the question. So the first step is to make sure that you're trying to think to yourself, do you really understand the keywords of the question? Do you understand what desire, what negative force means? And do you know how you can possibly define it? Number 2 is, are you familiar with the set text? Like, is it something that you want to include? Number 3 is, of course, thinking back to see if you have sufficient points for your argument. Now, gaining sufficient points is one of the most difficult tasks for a lot of different candidates, and I will show you the differences between a level 4 exemplar and a level 5 exemplar. Number 4 is the idea of providing evidence. So examples generally refers to evidence. Do you have sufficient evidence, like the quotes, the examples of the film scenes to prove your points? That is very, very important, because if you do not have evidence for your essay, it generally means that you will not have a longer length of essay. And then, because this is a paper 1 question, section C, question number 11, I'm trying to be more specific over here. So this is a level 5 exemplar, and I just wanted to show you that this is how it looks like. So before we actually delve into a level 5 exemplar, I want to highlight that it's always important to look at different exemplars for inspiration and try to, again, going back to the previous slide, you need to understand what are the key terms and how you can possibly define it. Now, in this video, as I've mentioned, I am only going to cover level 4s and level 5s because those are the levels that people find very difficult to differentiate. For level 3s, level 2s and below, you would be able to see a URL of all those levels for this specific question underneath this video, so that you're able to gain some insights on the differences between them. And I haven't created a video for level 3, level 2s or below because, again, I believe they're really self-explanatory. So without further ado, let's move on.